friends, we are here in Acts chapter 23. So what happens here is Paul comes before the Sanhedrin. You know, in a lot of ways, I'll just mention this once, but the things that are happening to Paul, to me, very much reflect the things that happened to Jesus. You know, it's like he knew that it was gonna happen and he still did it. And, you know, he was brought before the Sanhedrin, and you know, and then he was brought before the Roman governor. All these things, you know, really look very similar, but it's just something I noticed anyways. So Paul is brought before the Sanhedrin, and there's a guy who's the head priest, and his name is Ananias. So Paul starts speaking, and he basically says, my conscience is clear. You know, I didn't do anything wrong. And Ananias goes, somebody punched this guy in the mouth. And I don't know if someone actually punched Paul in the mouth or not. I think they did. And he goes, you guys are gonna try me by the law, but unlawfully you're gonna punch me in the mouth? You know, because he was a Roman citizen. You can't just punch a Roman citizen in the mouth without just cause. And so he kind of like snaps back at him, and he says, you know, you whitewashed wall, how dare you do this? And then they say, hey, he's the high priest. And Paul says, well, like, I didn't know he was the high priest, you know, because the Bible says you should speak well of your rulers. And so this led a lot of people to believe, and we already know from a lot of things, that Paul had horrible eyesight. So it's possible he didn't know that he was the high priest because high priests wore a certain garment, and Paul probably couldn't even see it. So anyway, it says, and this is hilarious, I think this is a very funny passage here, because Paul perceived that the room was full of both Pharisees and Sadducees. Now, Pharisees and Sadducees are both religious leaders, but they're very different religious leaders. Think of, like, I don't know, like a very high, you know, person in the Southern Baptist Convention, also like sharing a court with some priest of maybe like an Anglican church or something like that. Like they both believe in God, but their Christianity looks very, very different. Well, that's how this was. You know, this is the Sadducees. They don't believe in the more supernatural parts of Judaism. You know, they don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, and the Pharisees believe that there would be a resurrection. And they don't believe, the Sadducees don't believe in like angels. They don't believe in anything supernatural. So he says, look, the only reason I'm here is because I'm upholding the resurrection of the dead. And then the Pharisees and Sadducees start arguing with each other, because the Pharisees are like, we don't see anything wrong with him. The Sadducees are like, this guy deserves to die. So because things were getting so heated, the tribune, I'm trying to remember his name, Claudius Lysis, he basically pulls Paul out of there, because if Paul gets hurt, then he gets in trouble, because Paul's a Roman citizen. So he brings him out there because he was afraid that they were going to tear him to shreds, it says. So they take him away, and they kind of lock him up for a bit. And then they make a plan and an oath that they are going to not eat until they kill Paul. And somehow Paul's sister hears about it, and she sends her son over to tell the tribune, and he does. And so the tribune basically appeals, you know, from, you know, the city in Jerusalem to the head of this province. So that is in Caesarea. So he writes a letter to Felix. Felix is the governor there. And Felix is a governor like Pontius Pilate. In fact, Pontius Pilate was the governor before Felix. So now it's Felix. And so he sends 2 centurions, which means 200 men, to accompany Paul so that he can go to Caesarea without being hurt. The best part of this chapter, in my mind, is right before all this happens, you know, right before, you know, the plot to kill him comes up. It says that God came to Paul in his room, and it made it sound like he was just sitting there right in the room with him. And he said, "You've done good, you know, you've spoken boldly about my way in Jerusalem, and now you're going to do it in Rome." So no matter what's going to happen, Paul knows that eventually he's going to get to Rome, and he's going to be able to preach to the people in Rome about Jesus. I think this is something that's very amazing to me, because, you know, I can look around at the world around me, and if I had just started a riot and, you know, I was on trial for my life, and and you know, it seemed like everybody's hating me and I'm running from city to city and everybody's after me, I would be led to believe that I'm doing something wrong, you know, or that there's something wrong with me. But God himself, the creator of everything, comes to this one person and says, you know, you've done good. You did it here, and you're gonna do it there. And how special that must have been, and how much I forget sometimes when, you know, when conflicts happen in my life, that when I feel like I'm doing everything wrong, I shouldn't focus on what people think of me so much, but how does God feel about how I'm doing right now? Am I making him happy? Am I doing the right thing for him? Because in the end, that is the only thing that matters. So that is Acts chapter 23. All right, bye.